tonight, you've shared a lot of your God moments. I'll ask you for specific God moments, but just anything that we haven't had a chance to share, general impressions for today. What about today? I know that you laid a lot of energy on the ground, and isn't it amazing how tired you can be? But when you get around sharing about the day, it's just something energizing about it, and you begin to perk, not a lot, but you begin to perk up a lot, some.
Everybody but Phil.
Well.
When he gets back here.
What you don't know about Phil is that he gave out more energy today than he has on all the other deployments put together.
Wow. I did see that.
Yeah, he did. I'm
I
telling
saw him
you.
with that pole saw.
You should have been with us our first. Well, you were with us our first trip. About an hour into it, Phil's saying, "Do we have to do this all day?"
It's all week.
Just for the record, the last 2 days we walked some more than others. 30,000 steps. Close to 30,000 steps.
Well, no wonder you're tired. You've been counting all those steps.
He's got it down. Technology.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand up for my buddy Phil. Well, and when we went to Missouri back in April, whatever it was, Phil said, if Dennis is going, I want to be there. So 2 days into it, he says, we got to pray again? And then 3 days into it, he says, enough with this contemporary music nonsense. Put on the Gaylor Brothers or something.
And that lasted about 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden there was no noise.
But I will tell you just the follow-up story to that, Dennis. Phil says, I don't think I'm ever going again when it's just me and Dennis because they notice when I'm not working. When I go with a bunch of people from y'all cover up for him. That's what he was saying. So anyway, general impressions. What are you're now 3 days into a deployment? What are your thoughts? Maybe early, and it may you have written answers in other places, but what do you think so far?
Still got a long 5 more days.
Thank you.
It's like the rubber band theory, you got to keep stretching.
You just keep stretching. You keep stretching, and
It's been a unique time this week.
Yeah.
Way different than others. Something to say, you've seen one deployment. No, you've still only seen one deployment. They're all varied, but this was really different and scaled down and simplified and still getting a lot done. A lot hands-on administrative people, as well as volunteers and leadership. I think it's been very unique and hopeful for expansion of the gospel in many ways.
yeah, it has been. For you guys who were here the first time, you really don't have any sense of how unique this particular place is. This is the first time we've ever been on a deployment that we waited for somebody to bring us lunch. It's the first time we've ever been on a deployment when we are basically the only overnight team. And there are a lot of positive things in this. A lot of the rules have been kind of relaxed and not in a bad way. One of the reasons we enjoy working with Samaritan's Purse is that they're committed to excellence and committed to standardizing the process. But this has been a really joyful time for a lot of us, and we're grateful for that. Yeah, Dennis?
I'm not having the blessing of working with you guys during the day, but this is the third night, and I'm just watching, and you ask the question, and I'm looking around at every face, and it's not like when you ask the question you get the deer in the headlight look. I mean, people are thinking. You're processing. It's not like, don't ask me to talk. There's like, how do I articulate? And you're having a difficult time with that. And to me, that's just so amazing, because it's like, oh wow, another meeting, and is now I'm seeing you think it through from your mind to your heart. So I encourage you to share it, but it's not just that deer in the headlight look. So God bless you guys. That's all I can say.
Especially when you're shy.
Yeah, and we've noticed that you're shy, but you have come way a long ways, man. I'm telling you. Yes, Phil. I see that hand.
Do it again.
Well, I've been trying to speak, and he goes to the dentist, and
Well, it's because
Because you guys look so much alike with those shaved heads.
What about you?
now that's a pot calling a kettle black, isn't it?
Yeah.
well, I did for a while.
Yeah.
It was kind of like yours, white.
Yeah. That's what old people do. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think we all understand that all of our appointments are God appointments.
Yes.
And I find it really interesting in all my deployments that, well, of course, Billy Graham is based on evangelism.
Okay.
And Franklin Graham, this concept is based on evangelism.
Right.
And yet it seems like a large, maybe even 75% of the appointments we go to are believers.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be anywhere from babies or, like me, backslidden, or they can be anywhere in between. But I find it interesting that the ministry just isn't evangelism. Although that's very important.
Great.
But it's discipleship, it's encouragement for the church.
Yeah.
So I really like that it's not out, we're not Jehovah's Witnesses out there to convert.
Right.
God appoints it, we do it, and that's our responsibility, and that's what we do.
And it is really true. And from a pastor's perspective, I've said this over and over and over again. This is the greatest discipleship ministry any church could ever do. It's transformational, but the thing that I think you're referring to is probably even more amazing. Even if you go to a believer's house, they're not left the same. I mean, they're changed, and their ability to connect with God and to move closer and be more responsive to Him is as much of a miracle, in my opinion, as it is seeing a pagan come to Christ. It really is. If I can just use some of you as an example, think about this. This has changed your life already in 3 days. And you were already committed to Christ. You were already committed to Christ. Can I just interrupt? Welcome back. Was it a good day?
Yes.
Excellent day.
Okay, good. Great.
Excellent day. God showed up in a huge way, and things are changing rapidly around here.
Okay.
Amen.
Cool.
I'll let
Thank you.
Steph explain it.
There was a whole bunch of people praying for you, and I just want to make sure God answered our prayers.
God opened the doors, back, no man control.
Pray more for the pilot.
He needs more prayer.
Good.
But that's Seth. He is the, Seth, you got a second? We won't embarrass you.
Yes, we will.
No.
We're going to ask you about your helicopter.
I flew it over here today.
Yes.
Did you?
Seen it?
Yeah, well, we were too tired to see that high.
I wasn't high. I was
No, it's low.
I heard it go
Yeah,
over.
we saw
Did
it.
you really?
We saw it fly over,
Didn't know that.
yeah.
Anyway, he's in our room, and he's full-time.
No. He's in my room.
That's right. You're exactly right.
That's true.
That's exactly right.
Full-time with Smyrna's first pilot, helicopter and planes, jets, whatever. And a unique story, talking to him and what he does, and kind of behind the scenes, you never know that, but it's been a pleasure being in his room.
It really is true.
It really has. And it's quite a responsibility all the things he's done and missions and flying equipment over and rebuilding, aiding in various places. It's
And part of the reason, I'm assuming, part of the reason this Key West thing is opening up so quickly is because of their trip, and that's just.
No, it's the second time we've flown down there now.
Yeah.
From here to go. But today was pretty incredible.
Is
I'd
that
be happy
something?
to tell you
Is
more
that something we?
I never had a smoother ride on any kind of plane before. This guy in a helicopter is like a hot knife through butter.
Is there a God moment you should tell us about? I mean, we have time, but it's up to you.
Well, to get on the island, you had to have a special pass and code, but it was figured out through a pastor there. And we wanted to put the mobile ministry center on the island, and we had to find a place to park it. So we went to a Publix where they're giving away free ice and water, and the store is now completely stocked. And they have the National Guard and the water delivery. There's a Salvation Army truck there, and we want to know who we could see. So we went to the Publix store. You got to call the owner of the property, the manager. Well, we did. He said, "Sure, bring it on."
Wow.
Door got opened. He said, "But you know, I want to know how big it is." I said, "It's 40 feet long and expands wide, and it's going to be a draw for your customers because the doors are going to be open. It'll be staffed, and you will have more attention here because the name Billy Graham still draws."
Yeah.
So
How cool.
And it just opened the door.
How cool.
Your prayers reached the throne and rang the bell. I'm telling you, it worked.
I'm
Praise
telling
God.
you. Praise God. Praise God. Thank you, Seth. It's just our eyes have been opened just by a chance to meet you, and that's really cool. It's really cool.
Well, it's awesome that you guys are here. You know, without you people, you know, Samaritan's Purse doesn't have the workforce. You know, if you look around here, not including me, there's one paid staff member for Samaritan's Purse.
Yeah.
Everything that gets done, whether it's the site leadership team, the office crew, these people, everybody's volunteers.
Yeah.
You know, so I get paid to be here, but you guys are here giving of your time. And you're the hands and feet, and you guys are the orange shirt. You're the one that people, you know, most people don't even know I'm there.
Yeah.
You know, the face of Samaritan's Purse is you guys. So we thank you for being here.
It's a great partnership. Really, it's a great partnership.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Just give yourselves a hand.
Okay, just quickly, general impressions that maybe haven't been shared.
I'll share something. It started with before I went to the retreat in North Carolina.
Can you talk a little louder so they can hear you at home?
So it started before I went to the retreat. Before I went, I said to God, let me meet some godly connections. I don't want to meet people just for meeting people's sake.
Yeah.
And then here you and Leslie come sitting at my table. I think it was dinner.
Yeah.
One night.
Yeah.
And then you explained that you send people, you take people on these trips. So I volunteered for West Virginia, but I told you like today, it got canceled because the project was over. So I was disappointed. I was only going to go for 3 days. I didn't know that Irma was going to hit Florida.
Right.
So God opened up this door for me. But everything, and I'm telling you, I agree with what Veronica said today. I think this ministry is going to be big. And I think you started with the right group of people, because I never felt like a stranger. From the airport when I got there, Margaret and Nelson were holding up signs, Patricia across the big church. I bust out laughing, so I approached them with like, I am a very huggy person, but I have to get to know you first.
Right.
But when I saw my name on Crossbridge Church, I just like, I don't think she was expecting, especially Nelson, I don't think they were expecting it. But everything, I think this ministry, I know this ministry is going to be really, really big. And quite frankly, I'm proud to be a part of it. But I think you have the right group of people. Everyone here, I never felt like a stranger.
Thank the Lord for that.
I met my big sister here who brought me around.
Well, you're not a stranger.
No. Right. But I mean, sometimes it's difficult to like, especially with my personality, I'm not I have to get to know people
Don't
first.
initiate
typically.
it,
But
yeah.
with this group, it's been easy to just be Pat.
Yeah.
You know, with all, whatever.
And
that
it's
comes
such a
with.
delight having you here. And
Right.
what most of you may not know is that you live in
In Maryland.
in Maryland. She flew in just to be a part of this team,
Why, thank you.
and it's really, well, I mean, she didn't know who the team was, but just to serve, and I get a unique eye into what happening as I just watch how you guys interact with each other, and you. What are the odds you could put 22 people in a place like this and instantly fall in love with each other? What are the odds? I mean, y'all are pretty some eclectic people. I'm just telling you right now. But is it not true that this is a God thing? It's not about us or who we are. This is a God thing who makes. What is it Paul said? We're not Jews and Gentiles and whatever. We're kingdom people, and that's what you sense when you're around this table. And I am so impressed with you, and I am impressed with your ability. It's kind of like we instantly knew each other, and
Like the two babies
yeah,
leaping. And I think what you did is you gave birth to a new thing. I feel it in my spirit. I believe churches across Florida, this is ready to take off. It's ready to birth. The baby's about to be born.
yeah. Oh, how cool is that?
Right.
How cool is that? In fact, Ken and I were sharing this this afternoon. We would, I mean, obviously, I have the unique. I'm kind of like Seth. I get paid as a pastor, so I don't lose any money when we're here. But the truth is, this is my heart. I love what God is doing through you, and we'd be willing to buy 5 buses and to put them in places wherever to bring a team. And but I have to say, as I was sharing this at the table, for me, this is the thing that makes this team what it is. You may not have even noticed it, but it looked like I wasn't paying attention, but on the bus, as I'm listening and watching you guys pray with each other and sit down and interact with each other, the walls were falling that very moment. They were just falling the moment you started doing that. So anyway, for us, it's just about changed lives. You asked me what I was praying for. I'm praying for the spiritual transformation of everybody around here. And Leslie and I will tell you, we are seeing that already, even for those of you who've been before. And it's pretty amazing. It really is pretty amazing. We're not caring how big we get. What we believe is, if you think about it, if it weren't for us, there would have been 5 people in the field today. Now, it's not about us. I'm not saying that. But what if we could take twice this many? Or what if we could take 20 every week or every other week? How would it change the world if this could happen? And it's just exciting and beyond exciting. And as most of you know, we have a lady that said, I will pay half of every registration for as far into the future as I can if you can see this ministry make a difference. And the reason we charge you $200 cost me $400, cost us $400 for a trip. She's paying half of your registration. God is raising up some people, and this is beginning to happen, and we're excited about it. But please don't give. This is not Crossbridge, and don't give us the glory for it. This is just people serving God, and that's all. Somebody else, just a general impression. General impression. Anybody? This may be the first time I've ever heard Pete talk, so
Speak up now, Pete.
talk loud, Pete.
Something happened that I don't get emotional, but I happened to be looking at my Facebook page on the way to the site this morning. My son, anyway, I'll get through this. Posted on Facebook, I have the best dad because he's in Florida.
How impressive.
Yeah, proud of his dad.
You know, helping those that really need it. So, coming from Jared, you know, that's kind of the kid he is. He helps those, you know, who really need it. And so, but,
His dad's talking well.
Any of us would love to have our children post on Facebook, "I'm proud of my dad," or "I'm proud of my mom," wouldn't we? And when you realize that what it took to get that is Pete drove down from Kentucky, drove straight through, 14-hour trip, showed up here, and is just wearing himself out doing a chainsaw. And that's what it takes, not just to help Rebecca, but to change Jared. I'm telling you. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? I mean, it really doesn't. And Melissa was telling me about her mom saying, you know, are you sure you want to be out? You want to be away? You want to do all this kind of stuff? And she's probably watching, and I'm telling you. But what I'm saying is that I don't believe it's just the Rebeccas in life that are being transformed by you being here. It's people you haven't even met yet. When you go back home and you share, let me tell you what God's doing in an arena that most of you had no idea really existed until you show up and you see this. Your life will never be the same. And how cool is that?
Pastor, my daughter called last night, and I had not even talked to her since before Irma. It's been very difficult. She lives over on the East Coast, and it's very difficult for me to make contact with her, so that's not what you called. I was so excited. But she basically said the same thing. She says, Mom, you know, and she tells Eddie and I this often. She says, I'm so proud of you two for what you do. And she says, I tell everybody at the club, she works at a very nice golf country club. She says, and I tell everybody, oh, you know, they'll say, Nikki, what does your mom and your dad do? And she says, oh, you know, they travel around, they go to camps, Christian camps, and they do this God thing, and they're just such wonderful. And she says, I'm so proud of you. And it makes you feel good, because it makes you feel good to have your children say they're proud of you. Because we're always saying, well, we're proud of you. But when your children tell you that, it does make you feel good. And see, she's telling other people, well, my mom and dad are working with Samaritan's Purse, you know, down in Fort Myers. And it's so exciting. And she's, in her own way, she's spreading the good news of what we're doing. You know, they're not just sitting by, you know, they're retired, but they're doing something for the Lord. But it's a wonderful feeling, Pete. I totally agree. When your children,
when they
say
recognize the extent to which you will go to serve the God you love. That's just amazing. Let me just interrupt myself and ask you, I don't know if all of you know this or not, but we got a phone call today. We have a lady in our church, happens to be the lady who said she would fund half of the trips as far into the future as she can. She called Channel 9, the Bay News, and said, you need to go to Fort Myers to catch up with Beyond the Storm and do an interview with the team and post it on Bay News 9, the television station. And so I asked Tim, I said, okay, because we need to get clearance from their media department. He said, send them down. So before we leave tonight, we need to pray. The station manager, probably the owner of Bay News 9, is a dynamic Christian. And when you say it's about to give birth, can you imagine what it would be like for the entire Tampa Bay area to interview you guys and you share these kind of stories about what God is doing? This is an opportunity that we've never had before, and we're excited beyond belief. So pray. Yeah. Well, we're going to be careful about who it is we put on TV.
I was going to say, he's going to censor.
Yeah.
He's going to censor away from that camera.
Interviewing all the people?
No. There are a couple. Why did you look at Phil when you looked right at Phil when you did that? Right at him.
It could be better, but it's good.
No, and I myself, I'm not saying this the wrong way for Ronnie now, because today, you know, we were talking about her opening up in prayer, and that's what it's all about too. God just breaks our area where we're expanding, and He did that with her today too. You know, and I think that's
Impressive.
cool.
Plus,
It
she
is.
learned how to run, a chainsaw.
The proper way.
Yeah, that's cool. Any other general impressions or whatever about what we've been doing here? Anything else?
I'd like to share my life first because I think it's really appropriate. No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no.
here, let's have this camera.
I don't want to be on the camera.
Yeah.
Everyone can see.
Understand this, and you probably already know. You could better translate, in fact, some translations do put it this way: when you soar like an eagle, or when you run, or when you walk, you will renew your strength. It doesn't mean that all of us are going to soar, run, or walk. And put it into this context. When you are able to soar like an eagle, if you wait on the Lord, you'll renew your strength and you'll be able to soar. But is it true that there are moments when you couldn't possibly soar like an eagle? You're too tired, or the circumstances of your life. The best you could do is run. You can't soar. The best you could do is run. And there are times when that happens, we think we have failed God, because we're all supposed to soar, aren't we? Well, no. What He says is, when you wait on the Lord, sometimes you'll be able to soar like an eagle. Other times you're going to run. I saw that girl run across the field today, and I'm thinking, boy, it's been a long time since we've been able to do that. But He also says there will be time you can't even muster a run. The best you can do is walk. And God's content with the walking part. So when you wait on the Lord, sometimes you soar, sometimes you run, sometimes you can just muster a walk. But He renews your strength. Isn't that cool? He's not expecting you to do all three all the time. Sometimes the best you can do is walk. And in fact, I was thinking yesterday, you probably didn't notice it, but I had to drive with my left foot because I had a cramp in my right leg and couldn't use the accelerator. And in fact, when we got almost here, I had to put it in neutral and pull the brake and stand up because my both legs were cramping. And today I'm sure today I couldn't hold the steering wheel because I couldn't get my hands loose from the thing. Yeah, you were on my bus. That's right.
Kenny's driving the bus tomorrow.
Well, Kenny wasn't any better than me.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that there are times you can't muster a soar. You can't muster a run. The best you could do is a walk. And God's content with to restore you no matter where you are in the spectrum.
The first part saying, wait on the Lord.
Yeah.
When it comes to what we're doing in this ministry, we tried 3 times to go up north
Yes.
to deploy. The door closed down 3 times on us.
Yeah.
We're like, we're not trying again. God's closing the door. We're gonna wait.
Yeah.
So we figure, oh, here's Texas. We'll wait for Texas. And then here comes Irma. And I know now, that's why.
That's why. In fact, you wouldn't notice this, but even though I misspelled Fort Myers, I had already created a book for Burlington, Wisconsin. I had already created a book for Illinois, and had to when I went back to do the Fort Myers or to do the Texas thing, I'm thinking, oh, there's Burlington, there is Illinois, and then now there's Texas. We finally get to go to Texas, and the next thing you know, we're in Fort Myers. What are the odds that this is not a divine appointment? What are the odds? There's 0. This is a divine appointment. And here we are 3 days into it, and we're barely mustering a walk. But we are waiting on God, and I will guarantee you by tomorrow morning, you will have realized He's renewed your strength.
All right, and on that passage, one thing I want you to know, I'm looking at the NLT, Holloman, NIV, and New King James. Everyone has the words verbatim as far as they will soar high on wings. Right? New Living Translation. But those who trust in the Lord. Holloman. But those who trust in the Lord. NIV. But those who hope in the Lord. And the New King James, those who wait on the Lord.
Yeah.
Pick it. You're gonna soar like eagles if you trust, hope, and wait on the Lord.
Amen. Yeah. Try waiting without trusting.
Not possible.
Try waiting without trusting, or try hoping without trusting and waiting. I mean, it doesn't matter how you put the word there. It encompasses everything that simply says, let's just give this to Him, doesn't it? Yeah. In fact, any other observations? Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 4. It's in the back on page, 44? Page 44. As I was reading this today, I realized that the reason I put this passage in it is probably the last 3 verses. And we'll spend a minute or two on those last 3 verses. But what jumped off of the page, excluding the last 3 verses?
Verse 7.
Verse 7. What's it say?
We now have this light shining in our hearts, but ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure. I never feel more like a fragile clay jar than when I come on one of these trips.
Yeah.
But I also never feel the indwelling of that great treasure more than when I come on these trips.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. There is a translation, I don't even know which one it is, that says, we have this treasure in a cracked pot. Mm-hmm. And is that not true? That this treasure is in a cracked pot. And some more cracked than others. I'm just
Poor Phil.
Not crock pot.
Not crock pot, no.
A
A cracked pot. Well, it could be. I mean, there's times it feels. Yeah. There's times it gets hot like a crock pot. Somebody else, excluding the last 3 verses, what?
I underlined the same one.
The same one?
Yeah, we're buddies.
Yeah.
Fragile.
Why did you underline it?
Fragile?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on, but, you know, it's the weight, it's the trust. It's,
Yeah.
life will, it'll work out one way or the other,
Yeah.
good or bad, but, you know.
But when you do those things, He renews your strength. That's
My
what.
buddy saved my life today, though. By the way.
How's
I
that?
lost my backpack with my license and phone in it, or my wallet. It's like, you know what that's like.
I do.
So anyway,
How cool.
finally figured it out that I left it over there when we were loading the truck. truck.
Mhm.
And he hit it. Plain sight.
That's great. Somebody else, other than the last 3 verses, what jumps off the page at you? Anybody?
Verse 3.
Verse 3? What's it say?
It says, if the good news we preach is hidden behind a veil, it is only hidden. I'm sorry, let me back. It is hidden only from people who are perishing. So if we're hiding it, we're not helping.
That's exactly right.
You know, it was like, and I forget where it is in Proverbs, because, you know, Lord help you if you let them perish without trying to save them.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing big time, but.
Remember, it was, I believe, Ezekiel that God said, all right, listen, there's a whole bunch of people who are lost. You don't go tell them, you're going to suffer for not telling them. If you go to tell them and they don't pay attention, they will suffer, but you will at least have redeemed your relationship. And that's extremely important. Somebody else, any verses other than the last 3?
7 as well, but the latter part. This makes it clear that our great power is from God, not from ourselves.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything that quite, and I think 13 was implying this as well, there's not many things that will confirm that this great power is God than having laid everything that you have on the ground today. And being able to sit here around this table, and I don't know, again, Ken and I were having this discussion a while ago. I don't know if you noticed it, but when we start sharing around this table for a moment, the weariness seems to be set aside. And something perks up. And it's not, obviously it's not us, it's because we're still the cracked pot part. And a lot leaked out today.
True.
But there's nothing quite like seeing that what you're experiencing is only God. Because you're too tired to experience it in the flesh. And you're not, and you're, you know, the time's getting away. There's a lot of things going on, but you realize what I'm experiencing right now is proof that this is God. I experience. I excited. Yeah. Somebody else. What did you
For me, it's verse 8.
Verse 8.
We are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed.
Yeah.
We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. And you know, you always, I think people, us as Christians, we know deep down that it's never just us that's going through something.
Mm-hmm.
But when I hear the stories of the people in this group, I'm thinking, man, my mother having dementia, me having to look after her, is nothing. And your story, Beth, her stories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, man, you know, so all of us here, there's something going on in all of our lives.
That's
We're speaking to
exactly
everyone,
right.
But we're here.
That's exactly right.
And we're doing our work with joy.
Yeah.
I actually texted my sister today. I said it's hard work, but people are joyful. We're happy.
Yeah. Isn't it impressive? And you likely, unless there are things that will prompt this conversation, you will leave on Sunday without knowing what most of the stories behind this team really are. But if you knew the backstory for most of the people right here, it would be the kind of stuff that is newsworthy at some level. I mean, it's the kind of people that if you knew what she's going through, you would say, "Wow, that's just overwhelming." Or if you knew what most of us are going through. But we've been together 3 days, and the joy of the Lord has helped us see past the overwhelming stuff of our life, and that's what you're talking about. But look at it in verse 8. And I know that you know this. I'm not trying to exaggerate it. But you know what keeps something from being crushed when it's pressed? It's the strength of what's inside. You don't keep it from being crushed by the external around it. What it means is that something inside, and he says that clearly, something inside of us is stronger than what is weighing us down. So that it can't be crushing us because it's too big inside for that to happen.
But that's the God.
That's the God in us. Well, isn't that what he says? Listen, that's what he says in these verses. We have this treasure. It's in a broken vessel, and outwardly the stuff seems to weigh us, but because of the treasure inside, it can't crush us. You know this illustration, but think of it this way. The enemy is pointing a machine gun at you, and you immediately wilt because you're afraid of machine guns. But what if you knew he didn't have any bullets? I'm serious. What if what you see pointed at you, you knew he does not have any bullets in that? Would you be fearful?
No.
Absolutely not. Do you know that that's the truth?
No.
The enemy? No, sure you do. You know he has no authority because the scripture says that there is no weapon formed against you that can have success. It can't prosper. Why? It's because you have a treasure in you that no matter how he points it, whether it's a mom that you're dealing with, or a daughter that you're dealing with, or issues that if we knew would be overwhelming, it's an empty bullet, empty gun, because nothing that's formed against you can crush you, not because it doesn't happen, but because you are strengthened on the inside with this treasure that God gives. How amazing! And it takes a deployment for us to bring that into focus, does it not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody else.
On 10, the last one, that's 10. Through suffering, our bodies continue to share in the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may be seen in our bodies. Don't you know that our homeowner today watched us out there, saw our suffering and the heat and hurting and wore out, and our suffering, she saw Christ in us. Even though she's a believer,
But that's the
you know
discipleship part.
Yep.
She went away changed, even as a believer, watching you. Think about this. The greatest impression you made today was not in the first hour when you were fresh. It's that you didn't quit doing this when it was obvious to her and every one of us we were way past our ability to do it. We were way past it. Isn't that what he says? Through your suffering, when you were completely depleted, Jesus leaked out. And as a result, I guarantee you that if we had performed as if this had not taken its toll on us, nobody's going to be remarking those guys really have given it all for Jesus. It was in your being depleted that Christ was lifted up. And that's what he says in verse 10. If we knew that, it would not come as such a discouragement to us to realize, you know what, in fact, I was thinking of this afternoon. I've been doing this for a long time, but it gets harder the older you get. Yeah. Let that be known that was Shine that said that, It does get harder, and I was actually thinking as I was driving home, will there be a time when I just don't have the physical ability to do this?
Yes.
And maybe the answer to that is yes. But then I read this verse and say, you know what? Some of the greatest contributions we can make is when we're here doing this and we're totally depleted. In that suffering, that's when God gets the glory. And I think that more than anything, when again, and I'm not being negative at all, but when those two kids showed up this afternoon, and I didn't see, when they left, I know they weren't there all day, but they were not any less, they weren't any more winded than when they came. I mean, it was just, they could have gone on. But when you drug yourself to the bus, I bet you the Spirit of God whispered to Rebecca, they've left everything they have for you. That's what verse 10 says. In that suffering, Jesus leaped out. That's cool. Somebody else. Somebody else. Anything that comes off of this page?
Let there be light in the darkness.
Let there be light in the darkness. Yeah. Can I just be really honest? And this is not meaning that most of us do not or didn't have a relationship with Christ. But would I be accurate in saying that there was likely some area of darkness, not sin, I'm not talking about that, but each one of us brought some area of darkness with us. Not sin, I'm not saying that, and not that we turned our back on God, but each one of us brought something with us that was this burden that's weighing us down. And if you look at that, what we read today is that God, in the midst of all of this that we bring, that dark area of our life, He shows us a light. And I'll be honest with you, I see that in me today as I'm driving back and I literally can't pry my hands off of the steering wheel, and I'm thinking, just don't let my legs cramp up. How bad I couldn't even take my hands off to wear out my legs.
You call me up front, Les.
Yeah. But
Take
I'm
over the wheel.
Yeah. But autopilot. Yeah, that's right. But what I'm thinking is that area of fatigue is an area of darkness, and what Todd is saying is that, you know what, God shines the light into those areas, and tonight I feel a light that's different, just because we've shared these times together. How cool is that? Somebody else, what did you find in this passage? Anybody? What I want to do, and then we'll just do God moments and we'll be done. Notice verse 7, that the word now is really critical. If you understand that verses 1 through 6 talk about the fact that God intentionally gave you something that was hidden from every generation before the power of the Holy Spirit came, before Pentecost. And that since then, He has revealed so much, so that we now have this light shining in us. Anybody remember those dark days before you found Christ? And you would be able to say, now everything is different. He's saying up here, there were people who are perishing and none of this made any sense to them. But He's saying to you, but now you have light. There was a time, He says, when people tried to force the gospel. He uses the word trick. Trying to trick people into making some commitment or saying something. That was what Phil was actually referring to. There are a lot of people that will try to cram Christ down your throat. We're using all kinds of tricks. Dennis made reference to it at some level this morning. But now you have something that goes way beyond all of that. The word now really impressed me. The fact that it's a light shining in your heart. A lot of the dark may be outside, but this light is in your heart. That impressed me. As has already been said, we are fragile. But I think what God wants you to take away tonight, as fragile as I feel and as broken, and has the enemy pointed out to any of you that you may not be as strong a Christian as you think you are? He does that a lot. He's saying, what about this in your life? What about this in your life? What about this in your life? And what Paul is saying, you know what? I don't even have to deny the fact that I'm not finished yet. I'm not what I want to be. I'm not what I'm going to be, but thank God I'm not what I was. And that's what he's saying here, is that now, in this broken vessel that's not completely mended, there are areas of your life that will be totally changed, but it won't happen till next year. But you still have this treasure already in you. You're not waiting until you're fixed, till the crack is fixed. You've got a cracked vessel, but there is treasure here. Think about this. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and Ken pointed it out in verse 10. If Jesus resides in us, the best way for it to get out is through the crack. Isn't it?
Yes.
If we're perfectly intact, how many people do you know that are perfectly intact and would be impressed to know that you too are perfect? Seriously, let me say this. The next person you meet who thinks you're perfect, instead of appreciating you, they will think, I could never be like that. I will never be perfect. I will never be perfect. Paul said it clearly. Your best testimony is in the crack in your life. And most of us try to hide it. Most of us try to cover it up. I don't know if you know what the word sincere means. The word sincere literally was taken from a sense of a pot, a vessel that was created by a potter, and it was put on a shelf to be sold. I mean, it's a beautiful vase. But occasionally those things got broken or got cracked. And so they would cover it up and put it on a shelf to sell it. And then somebody would buy it and they'd bring it back and they would say, wait a minute, you're selling a defective vessel. So in order to discern between a defective vessel that had been covered up and one that was genuine, they used the word sincere. Sincere means this hasn't just been stuck together. Sincere means this is in renewal. It's back on the potter's wheel. The word sincere means that you can trust what you see, that it hasn't been covered up. There's a phrase that says you can cover up a crack, but people will always, their eyes will immediately go to the crack. What if that crack was the way for Jesus to be seen in your life? Oh, cool. All right, let's go quickly to what day is this? Monday?
Friday.
Feels like
Wednesday.
All right, I just want to do one thing. What was your God moment that you haven't shared already? What was your God moment today? What was your God moment?
I think mine was talking to Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
She was very emotional. We were out back by her house, and she was talking to me about how she was so overjoyed of us coming to do that her husband wasn't very good at using the chainsaw. So, that
But then
she
you
knew
tell
that-
her, hey, listen, Ronnie can do it. He could do
That's
it.
right. So she was very appreciative of it. That was my God moment.
That's really cool. And the story I told about Paul and what's our first deployment with SP. What if 4 years from now? Because y'all, if you haven't done it already, you'll sign a Bible, put your name in. Huh? Jennifer. What if 4 years from now, Jennifer sends you a note and say, you know what? That conversation we had in my backyard changed my perspective. It would make all this tiredness worth it, would it not?
Yes, it would.
And so I think some of us today thinking, you know, just get me back to my room. But it may not be this year. It may not be next year. And some of you may be even debating whether you'd want to do this again. But let me just tell you that 5 years from now or sometime, the Spirit of God's going to bring back that conversation and you're going to say, I am so glad I was there. Somebody else, God moment.
Along that line, just I'm just gonna reinforce what Rick just said. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I still get phone calls from 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, saying thank you.
Yeah.
You changed, not me,
But through the power of the Spirit.
the power of the Spirit. You changed my life. You changed the direction I was going. You never know that. You may never know that. And of course, a lot of times they'll lose your phone number. They'll lose your name's still in the book, but they lost your phone number. But I just want to reinforce, Rick's not just blowing smoke here. This is real.
It is real.
I had a Jewish gentleman call me from Hurricane Sandy, and he says, I still got that Bible. I'm still reading that Bible. And he went on just to tell me how impressed he was with watching God on the corner of his street that day.
Yeah.
Then in a humorous note, he says, "Oh, by the way, have you found my hammer?"
It wasn't lost. I stole it. Yeah. I liked it. Somebody else. God moment. Yeah, Todd?
Well, mine was actually signing my first Bible.
How cool is that?
For Alfredo. And it was
Amen.
my first job that I've done on my first disaster relief trip. And
That's
it's
amazing.
Just a lot of first.
That is amazing.
And that was my-
Todd just turned 31 days old in Christ today. And his God moment is signing a Bible for somebody he worked for.
But he's the baby, that's why he did all the work. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, all of you worked hard. Somebody else, God moment.
Yeah, I want to say, it never ceases to amaze me. I say this at every deployment, is the safety that happens. It can only come from God.
Yeah.
You got all these people, I don't know about you, but I trip over my own feet at home. And you got all these people, and you got how many chainsaws. I stepped back when I was taking a rest, when all you were working. And I did this with the brooms too, in not Baxter Springs, the church one, the Hollers. Anyway.
That's Kentucky, huh?
It just amazes me. You see all these branches on the floor, on the ground, and everybody is walking over them. Nobody's tripping. And I see all these chainsaws going, and stuff is falling, and there's people, but they're far enough away, and they're still pulling stuff. And I'm just watching all this action, and I go, Lord, you just amaze me for this group of people, that the safety that has been, it just happens every time. I mean, it's not coordinated because we're all working so hard, and it's like, how come we're not bumping into each other or falling over a limb or something? And it's just, yeah, we get a couple cuts, but it just amazes me. I'm blown away every time by it.
And I think that's a bigger
God
deal.
moment for me, is just to watch a group of people as clumsy as, well, I won't speak, but we are.
Okay, so I fell yesterday.
Yeah.
But you didn't
but
get hurt,
think
you're
about
still
it.
standing.
What she's saying is true, and it's a bigger deal than we think.
It is.
When's the last time you have operated a chainsaw or been around a chainsaw or been doing the work that at some level is dangerous? And since none of us are good at this, we have been, by the grace of God, given a special dispensation of protection. And that's don't take it for granted. It didn't just happen because you're, huh? Well, no, I'm not. We trust. We trust. We wait. We hope.
Okay, just your arm.
Yeah. But seriously, it's a bigger deal than we think. This didn't just happen. Not because you're good at it. It's because the Spirit of God is in you doing these things. How cool. Anybody else? God moment. Real quick. God moment.
Oh, I can share something that was really cool. I don't even remember her. Her name was Wanda Allen, and we met her in Pine Tops, her and her husband. And she called today. And
Whoa.
do you remember her?
No.
Yeah, I do. The shoe lady. The shoe lady.
Right.
With all the shoes.
Yeah, she had 10,000 shoes.
10,000 shoes in her closet.
My kind of lady.
Never get out.
What did, so
That was Wanda, wasn't it?
Okay, she was a volunteer for SP.
Oh, no.
You're
This
talking
is a
home.
homeowner, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Wrong Wanda.
Anyway, so why did she call? What was
She
that?
called, maybe it was her, and
So you
maybe
don't
it
remember
was
her, yeah?
Her name was Wanda Allen, and she said she met us in Pine Tops, and she and her husband they're coming to serve with Samaritan's Purse. They're headed this way, and they don't have a date yet, but they're headed this way because they've already been in contact. But she wanted to know if there was anything that happened to any of us in Tampa, because they were going to stop and help us before they went on their way. And they have an RV, and she said even, and maybe it is her, because she said even if they don't have a place for us, she said we can just find a place to park our RV and get out and start helping.
And
So maybe,
and she sings. Remember she sang for us?
I don't, that's just so
Oh.
terrible of me. I don't.
Maybe it's not her, but I really.
But she's married.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I just thought that was so cool that, number one, that she's just headed this way and she doesn't know yet when and where she's serving, but she knows that they're going to.
That's cool.
And that she would offer to stop and see if any of us needed help before she went on her way. And I just thought that was just so.
For those of you who are first time, what you and you can't get the perspective here, and it won't happen because you're the only team here. But what you have just joined is a fraternity that will continue to grow, and every time you do employment, you'll meet somebody new, you'll meet some new people, some new Samaritan's Purse people. This one's an anomaly, but one of the reasons some of us enjoy doing disaster relief is it's kind of like it's old home family reunion time. And this lady who does, none of us even remember her, but remembers us and wants to come help us.
And normally Samaritan's Purse, they furnish the meal, and it's a really pretty elaborate meal, but they will ask us to invite the homeowner. You know, our team lead will invite the homeowner and, you know, their family members to come and share dinner with us. And so they will come, and we all fight over who gets to sit at the table with them. But then it's really cool because most of the time someone in that family will stand up, and then you get to hear their perspective on what they saw, and it's just a really special time. Yeah.
Let me close with this story, and then I want to know what your word is. We were in Gatlinburg, and they were, Gatlinburg was, we were there because of the fires, and what you do, disaster relief for a fire, is you go out to a house and you take these screen grids and you pour ash in it, and you shake it around, and you look for keepsakes or jewelry or anything that may be left that you can return to the homeowner. And it's not even so much about the value, it's about the value to them. I mean, it's important things. And so we were setting it, our team hadn't worked on it, but we were setting in a room. There were probably 50, 60 other volunteers beside us, and this homeowner got up and said, you know what, my house just burned, I've just been divorced, and I lost my wedding ring. Now, why she would want it, I don't know, but she said, I lost my wedding ring, and I asked the team when they showed up if they could find my wedding ring. And she said, as she shared her testimony, she said, I thought that the team showed up to find my wedding ring, but what I discovered is that they found me. Mm-hmm. And I will never forget how God pierced my heart to realize that here's a lady who had gone through horrendous things. I think her husband left her for some other woman, and I mean, it was just a brokenness. Why she wanted it, I don't know. But she said, I thought they showed up to find my wedding ring. Discovered that God had sent them to find me. That's why we do what we do. Let's start with Kathleen. And what one word describes your day?
Challenging.
Challenging, yes.
Fulfilling.
Fulfilling.
Exhausted.
Exhausted.
Almost.
Almost. What's almost mean?
Well, that we almost got it. We got to the job. We got a late start. We didn't
A
quite
late
finish.
start.
Almost.
He's a
Were you?
taskmaster. He
It's
wants-
obvious that you are here for the first time. We were thanking God that we showed up at 9 o'clock.
Memorable.
Memorable,
Productive.
productive,
Mine was wonderful.
wonderful.
Accomplishment.
Accomplishment.
Teamwork.
Teamwork. Impressed with your team.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I was very impressed. Very.
That's two.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Two personalities.
It was good.
Wow.
Wow.
Stretching.
Same as
Stretch.
impressed.
Yeah, that's it. That's right.
I'd have to explain it, but like Emma, spent,
Spent.
but was, to me, was, every time I thought I was spent, some lady would pick something up and carry it. And I'm going, not spent yet. So it's like teamwork, all of those
Yeah.
kind of, like, I
Yeah.
can't move another step, and then, oh, yes, I can.
Yeah, we had this, again, Ken and I had this discussion. I'm thinking, okay, so we're the leaders. I wanted to quit. And then exactly the same thing. Some of you guys would just jump up and do something, and I'm thinking, I'm their leader. How can I quit? And but I think that's the value of the team. We spur each other on.
I hyphenated, grace-filled.
Grace-filled.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Impressed.
Impressed.
Yes, what I was impressed about, I guess, was.
Janine has never done anything in one word. Just
Yeah.
so you will know.
Picking up the slack. Okay, it's
There
3
you-
words or something, but just
Yeah.
the unity and coming
Cool.
together.
I'd say the same thing. He says exhausted.
Exhausted.
It's challenging.
Challenging. God, thank you for our time together. As I said before, this team didn't just happen. These are not just people who happen to bump into each other. They're not just people who, in the grand scheme of things, just showed up. We are like servants that you have put together for such a time as this. We are exhausted. We can't soar, and I'm not sure we can run. I'm not even sure we're going to walk. But we're going to wait on you and believe that you will renew us. And that tomorrow we will look out through the windows of that bus and realize we have a great, great God, that in this cracked vessel, the treasure just won't quit. And the greater the crack, the more Christ leaks out. Help us to not forget that. I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. Thank you.